Hi, I'm Chris Williams, and you are invited to join me today in the Plaid Studios. Welcome for our FolkArt One Stroke Wreath of the Month Quarterly Roundup. And you say, Wreath of the Month? What are you talking about, Chris? Well, let me explain to you if you by chance missed it this year. Plaid, in our Let's Paint program, created a Wreath of the Month using FolkArt One Stroke and Donna Dewberry as our master program. And every single month, you have been invited to paint along with us a creative wreath to hang on your door. We did one for January all the way through to December. And I'd like to share with you that as we finished each quarter, we then had a quarterly roundup. So that's what today is all about. But before we get into the quarterly roundup, if you are new to the Wreath of the Month program, I'd like to share with you that there is a kit available containing FolkArt multi-surface paints, all the colors you need to create all 12 wreaths of the month. There's also in the kit FolkArt Treasure Gold, all the brushes necessary to paint, and some sponge painters. So, let me tell you, the most important part, it's almost like having the teacher at home with you. We have a hand-painted decorative folder painted by Donna Dewberry that contains 12 reusable teaching guides. And that's the part that I said is like having the teacher at home with you. You learn each and every single stroke, how to properly load your brush, practice on the teaching guides, wipe them off, practice again, and then you come straight to your wood surface to paint. Our wood surfaces happen to be birch, plywood, wreath shapes, perfect for any door and or interior use, like maybe hang over a mantle. The wreaths are round, square, and oval shape. Some can be hung horizontally and some can be hung vertically. So let's review what we then accomplished this past quarter. For October, this wreath right here is an oval shape wreath, and it was done on the horizontal. This one for October contains gorgeous poppies. Matter of fact, it's called Autumn Poppies. You'll also notice that there's a beautiful grapevine wreath, some fun, interesting white flowers, and some little thistle type flowers, perfect for the fall season. And I know that many of you painted this wreath because we saw them as you shared them within our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we did for November. The November wreath, called Golden Magnolia, is beautiful, and we took our square wreath and turned it on the diagonal. The great big golden magnolias and seed pods and Japanese lanterns are just beautiful and perfect for the Thanksgiving holiday season for the month of November. This month, for the month of December, I know you all are busy painting your December wreath. Instead of doing a traditional wreath of a red poinsettia, Donna shared with us how to paint a white and green poinsettia, accented with some fun holly leaves and red berries. Perfect again for the December holiday. And you know what? This is not just Christmas. You could even keep this hanging up for January too. A winter poinsettia wreath is just beautiful. So I hope that you all have enjoyed painting each and every single month's wreath. Or wreath for the month, I should say. For the quarterly roundup today, we are going to do another option of a winter style wreath. We're going to use the round wood wreath, and this is about 19 inches wide. So again, it's perfect for hanging on your door. We're going to paint this using Treasure Gold and a FolkArt Stencil. This beautiful deer or stag was stenciled in the center. We then used a lot of the wreath shape of the stencil to create a wreath around the edge with the Treasure Gold branches, accented with some evergreens and some winter berries, and of course flicked it with some snow at the end. So Donna's going to share with us today how to paint this. So come on, join us in the studio and let me introduce you to Donna Dewberry.
Hi, I'm Donna Dewberry, and I am here with Miss Chris Williams right here in the studio. So it's yours, Chris.
Well, welcome everyone. We're glad you're joining us today, and I just want to let you know that this video is pre-recorded, But I do want you to know that we're watching this live along with you. So if you have any questions, be sure and type them in. Let us know in the comment section. And Donna and I will do our best to answer those questions for you in real time. If you're watching this after the fact, continue asking the comments or writing the comments, asking the questions, because we will then follow up and try our best to answer each and every question. So without further ado, Donna, I think you should just go ahead and take it away and have fun and share with everyone how to stencil this deer and create a fun, festive, holiday wintertime wreath.
Isn't this pretty? I'm so excited. When Chris and I were figuring out what we wanted for this quarterly to be, we wanted shiny. We wanted it to stand out from the street, Chris always says. I want when they drive by that it is in their view and you know what it is. So lots of people like deers, and during the holidays, it's a wonderful time to decorate with them. So the best part, I think, to make this wreath wonderful is we're using treasure gold. So the treasure gold is going to be the feature of the shiny in this project. All right, so I'm going to put this to the side and let's get started. Now, you know, if you've been watching it all, or if this is new for you, these birch plywood wreaths are wonderful. They're heavy duty, they've got holes pre-drilled, they're all ready for hanging. Now, I just want to share with you what I've done is I've base coated my wreath with the licorice in the multi-surface, FolkArt multi-surface licorice, and that's what I base coated it with first. Now, when I base coated this, it raised the grain, so I make sure I sand it lightly and get it nice and smooth and put a second coat on. And I do that also because the gold will show those raised imperfections and we want it smooth and beautiful. All right, so this is going to be a fun, easy project. So after you watch this, make sure that you come back with your family and friends and y'all do one together, because it's going to be easy and a great way to start one stroke. Now, the first thing I'm going to do after I'm all dry and ready is I'm going to use this wonderful FolkArt stencil. Now, this stencil is adhesive. And I have to tell you, I used it multiple times before my husband said, "You have an adhesive stencil." I said, "No, I don't." Guess what? He said, "You want to make a bet?" That I knew he was right. He wouldn't have said that. He was real sure. But so what I want to share with you is you can peel off the adhesive and you can use it over and over. Or you can do what I'm going to do today is, since this is a lot smaller than I want it to be, Chris and I were talking about, let's extend it. And one of the things, because I use stencils a little bit different than the way Chris does sometimes, what happens is she showed me really nicely how you can then join all these together instead of having the breaks that you have to have when you have a stencil. All right, so I'm going to take and show you a couple of ways that I do stenciling onto my piece. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of tape just to, because I try to wing it, and every time I do, I'm sorry. So I'm going to take and start out here at the edges. So if you see, I wanted it to be way out here, not tight to the deer. It gave you a whole different element of using this stencil. When I don't want to use a sponge is when I'm going to try to make this deer antler that's going to be in the middle not have this extra. The stencil brush really helps you there. All right, so I'm going to come out here and just put a little piece of tape so it doesn't move around on me. All right, and I'll show you really quick with a dry stencil brush that we can go in and pick up the paint. All right, and I need to have an extra paper towel here. Tell them what I'm getting ready for, Chris.
What Donna's going to share with you is when you stencil, the best way to stencil is to use what we call a dry brush technique. So what we're doing, or what Donna's sharing with you, is that she loaded the brush with paint, and that is the FolkArt Treasure Gold color.
Oh, yeah.
And then what she's also doing is using the paper towel to offload. You never want to use a fully loaded brush when you are stenciling, because you'll have very much a chance to have the paint run underneath the stencil design, and you'll get that what we call bleed. And when you stencil, you really want a nice, clean, crisp edge every single time you stencil. And so that's why it's so very important to load your brush and then offload your brush.
Okay, thank you, honey. So now what I want to share with you is I use a dry sponge, and what I do, if you're a Dewberry, I take this dry sponge and I'm going to pick up paint. Now, the fatal mistake with the stencil brush or the sponge is to scoop it up and go and put all that paint on there. All right, so to not have that happen with a sponge, you're going to take and rub this into your foam plate in circles until, looky, it's all gone, just like we do with the stencil brush. We push it into the sponge.
And
okay.
Donna, let's share with everyone that the sponge you are using is a FolkArt One Stroke sponge painter. It comes in a set of 2 different sponges. It is part of the Wreath of the Month kit that we have this year. And you're using the smaller of the 2 sponges.
I am, and I use the sponge for base coat and lots of faux finish effects that you've seen me do over the years. Okay, so see, there's, I'll show you right now that I already made a little mistake that I wouldn't want to make, but because I'm putting all kinds of other stencil pieces on top of this also, you see I got some of the antler. So it's not going to matter with what I'm doing, but it would matter if you didn't want the antler to show. So what you could do, guys, is just put a little bit of blue tape on top of those if you don't want something in your stencil to be there. All right?
And that technique is what we call masking a stencil.
That's right. Chris has all the terms that I show. Oh, I'm going to also move this around. She has all the right terms, so I'm always saying, oh, that's right, that's what that's called. Like I didn't know fly specking. I know fly specking now. All right, so what I want to show you is really quickly, we can go around, and as we go around, what I'm going to do is move it so that it's not the same as I come around. All right, but look how fast this happens. Really fast, fun. I'm just going back and forth, and I'm not going to go too far, if you'll see. I don't want to go into it too much, but then I can come around here. See how I'm kind of rotating it? And see how long the sponge is still lasting?
And you know, y'all, when you use just a portion of a stencil like that, it's great because you can increase the size just by using sections at a time.
And I thought that's what was the fun part of this, is that I freehanded, which I'm going to show you, but look, I can just come right in here and just add on a few more branches with the stencil pieces. See, I can just keep adding to it. If you don't feel comfortable with the technique I'm going to show you next, but the technique I'm going to show you is quite easy. So far, it's something fun and easy to do with your family so far, right? We want crafting to be quick and easy and fun as we go. And I think Plaid does a wonderful job of making that possible. When you can go to Let's Paint and look at all these wonderful things they've been having. What are some of the new programs called? Because I don't know the titles well, Chris. The filming that happens each week. There's all kinds of new stuff.
Oh, well, we have a Lunch and Learn program every single Tuesday and Thursday with Andy Jones. And on Tuesday, it's all about teaching different painting techniques or product information, which is so fun. Thursday, we actually do a full project. And then every Wednesday, and that's all featured in the Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. And then every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we do a craft break. That's on the Plaid Crafts Facebook page.
Those are the new ones. I didn't know what they were. Those are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and then every Monday night, there's another painting session through Michael's community classroom. And the first Thursday of every month, we do another painting project that's all done quick and easy within an hour with Jesse Panuski, and that's held on the Plaid Crafts Facebook page as well.
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to share now is you can do it two ways. Chris and I talked about this before I started. I was going to put my deer first, but I got carried away. I was excited. But you can put the deer itself so that you're sure where you want the antlers to be showing. By the way, those are not vines, those are antlers. Did I say they were vines? I might have said they were vines. They're antlers. Okay, so this is the key. I started going just like this, and look what would have been the problem. All right, it's the same thing. If you see saw teeth on the back of your project, you would have to be more careful. And we've done that many times upside down by accident. So make sure that's straight.
And what Donna's pointing to is there's 2 pre-drilled holes
There we go.
that allow you to hang your wreath when it's all completed. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure that those holes are at the top of your design.
Yes. All right, so now I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna tape this down. And one way I can tape it is I can cover that little spot so it doesn't, I want a nice clean, no extra little films of that gold. So that's gonna be from the rest of the stencil, okay? So mostly where you have to worry about it is where, right in here where these breaks are. All right, so I want a nice clean deer.
I am loving how that treasure gold is just
And then
so
see it?
beautiful.
And already, the way when you stencil it, it already, I'm sorry, interrupted you. What point were you saying?
I was just going to talk about how beautiful and rich the gold color is against the black background.
And treasure gold, all the new colors
Yes.
are
yes.
amazing. That's what I hear the most about these days. Besides, it's water-based now, not solvent-based, and you still get the beautiful shine. And there's you don't have that cleanup that I used to regret, not be thrilled about. All right, I know I'm taking time here, but this is important. Okay. All right, I know I could be using scissors and do a cleaner taping job, but y'all are with me, right? Now, I still haven't got any more gold, but right now, see, you can tell you're gonna need gold, all right? And also, we want a heavy gold. We might even come back on this deer a little bit later and do a second coat, because I don't want you to keep getting paint until it's solid. I want you to stencil it until it's solid, okay? So I'm gonna come here. Oops, see, I'm sorry, I missed a spot right here close. Anything that's close makes it, what did I say? That's when you use the brush. Okay. When I'm up there in the antlers, okay, then I can come in here. See, with a sponge, I wasn't getting the tips. All right, same thing on these guys. All right, so I'm gonna come in here. I'm moving the whole table. Now, just stenciling this does not mean it's done, because I want to fix these breaks right here. Okay, just make sure it's nice and even, because it will show up with, it might not show up as much when you're using regular paint, but I have noticed it shows up with the metallic. Okay, so look how quick and easy that was. Now what I want to do is fix this one break, so it's pretty good that there's only the antlers attached to the deer itself. So I'm going to come right in here. And just blend it in so it doesn't look like it's attached. But we're going to shade too, just remember, we're going to float some paint in there. So I'm going to leave it alone so I don't pick up gold and let that sit. Now let's go around and look at what we're going to do out here. I told you the antlers, you can continue to use the stencil over and over, or I kind of came in here and attached this with the chisel of my brush, all right? So I can use my 3/4, which I usually do, but I just want you to see up close that we can add all of this in here, and the antlers are twisting around on the chisel of the brush, okay? If you're new out there, the chisel or the brush tips, all right? So I'm gonna move this away. Thank you. All right, so all I did was go around and add extra. Now we're going to put lots of pine needles and evergreens and different elements down along in here. So you don't have to worry a lot about if your stenciling is not totally perfect, but I just showed you a pretty easy way to make it all go smoothly. And I like having some of it coming off the edge here and there. Not constantly, but just a few, but I didn't like the straight edges here. So just like an antler would be. And I even looked at some antlers on the internet to see how they would be. Now, I'm not going to be hyper focused in here. Like I told you, it's going to be covered mostly. So I will just add a few more in here. Now, black is solid and it covers, you know, the licorice covers really well. But if you get spots and stuff on here, if you just take like my 3/4 inch brush and try to stroke over that, you will see that it looks like a patch. So what I would tend to do, it doesn't look like it's the same color, but it is. So I've had that happen many times. So what I would suggest is that you put pine needles or something there if it needed that. But there are times where you might drop something right away. If you take your sponge and wet it really good, you can wipe that off really fast. All right.
Well, and the beauty of this project is that there are so many evergreens and twigs and berries, and then it's all continued with the fly specking of snow, so that will camouflage.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
If someone does have an error.
I forget about that fly specking. The key is, this is supposed to be fun, and you don't have to be perfect at those chisel edges. Look at that. I'm just being loosey-goosey. Can you do that? Be loose and have a good time, all right? So all the way around, I can cover up those little spots where the antlers were showing from my deer. See how wonderful and luscious the gold is? Say again what this gold name was. I thought it was just called gold. Is it a color?
It is gold.
Oh.
It's treasure gold. Gold.
Okay. I thought you had said another, because there's other golds. What, do you remember some of the other golds?
Well,
Chris?
treasure gold comes in such a variety of colors, including some new jewel tones and silvers and platinums and rose gold and antique gold.
Okay.
It's just so beautiful. But you're working today with the treasure gold in the gold.
In your kit.
Yeah.
Right? So to have the tools in your kit is wonderful. Everything that we're using today except the stencil and you getting your wreath, which is available, is in the kit. So we can just start painting and have a wonderful time creating.
And if you are interested in painting along with Donna on the Wreath of the Month program, or even trying to find the Wreath of the Month kit or these wood surfaces, I invite you to check out plaidonline.com/let's paint. At that location on Plaid's website, you will find all the information you need to know about the FolkArt One Stroke Let's Paint program.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to now do some shading on our deer. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use floaty medium, and I am going to put some burnt umber here. I'm just going to show the floating process on the foam so that you can see it really good on the foam plate, and then we're going to go to add our extra branches and stuff with our double loader. All right, so what I'm going to do is we can use the 12. I usually use a bigger brush than that when I'm floating, but I want you to see that since there's inside the deer, inside his ears, let me show you this real quick. Let me show that a little bit closer. So see, now we're gonna put the brown in here and make it look a little bit more realistic. But you know what? Y'all can leave it just like this, put the stencil back on, do one more coat if you feel like you want to leave it just like that. This is not difficult to do, so I want to show you how fun and easy it is, but it gives them a little bit more character. You can even put a red nose if you want to. All right, so here we go. We're going to take the floating medium, which is the fluff that's inside our FolkArt paint with no pigment in it. So we're going to pick up floating medium on both sides. I don't want you scooping it. I have a lot of people who do that. Too much floating medium will be a problem. All right, and then I take and tap it so the brown goes down. This is the burnt umber multi-surface. You're going to come right here and side load the edge. All right, so you can go back and forth and get a nice edge. Now that's what we want it to look like. We want it to go from strong against where we want the darkness to be and fade away. All right, now I did a little bit. You can start right here a little bit on the gold in here. I don't know if y'all can see that as well. All right. And then what's going to happen, a little bit more. And guess what? If you are unhappy, uh-oh, I did it first thing. I did that on purpose so I could show you. I guess it's on the bottom of the plate. All right, see when I said take a sponge right away and wipe it off? Or a wet paper towel, I like the sponge. All right, it was on the bottom of my plate, so I'm not setting that plate down again. All right, so we're gonna come right in here, pick up a little bit more each time. I don't have to get medium every time because there is medium still in your brush. A little bit more. Now let's come right in here. So what's gonna happen is this antler's in the back, so this antler right here is gonna be in front. Can you see that? I've got a hair there. And see, this deer has an ear back there. This I like to go around the antler itself and then come across the face. Does that make sense? All right, so then inside the ear, we're just gonna come right in here and make the crease inside the deer ear, inside his ear, and then right here I go to the point and then come back. It kind of looks like a leaf. All right. And then on his bottom jaw here, we're gonna just do a little crease that comes up. And when that dries, it's gonna look really pretty. Actually, I want him to be a bigger, heavier deer. He was looking skinny. But see that? Now when the medium dries, all that other goes away. And I did come along back here. You can come right here and separate that ear and put it a little bit in front of
And for those of you that might be new to the FolkArt One Stroke method of painting using the FolkArt multi-surface paints, I will share with you that these paints are perfect for a multiple surface area. They're great for wood, for tin, for terracotta, for glass, for fabric. There's so many surfaces this paint can be used on. And the use of the FolkArt floating medium does not extend really the drying time of the paint, but what it does is it allows that paint to float or to glide easier, and it gives you more of a transparent effect, which is exactly what Donna was just sharing here with all the shading that she just did on her deer.
Thank you. All right, so I did do a few of these, which only if you want to, you don't have to worry about it. You can leave it. Some people are very happy without continuing different detail, but I want you to see I could take my 3/4 and I can come around and just shade a little bit here and there in areas that are going to show a little bit more. But by the time we put some snow and fly specks, some little specks of snow and gold, some of this doesn't show, but I'm going to come up here. I see. There's where that plate touched. All right, so just a little bit around.
Well, it's like adding more twigs to the wreath.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So isn't that fun so far? I'm going to come in now and just teach you a little bit about the pine needles and the evergreens. And so what I want to have here, the first thing I want to tell you is that these sponges, these painter sponges are wonderful, but what you need to do is I have my students always take and fold them in half and until we get to the sink to wash them and put them right into the basin. But see this little area here? If I put it down in the basin, then it won't dry. When it dries, the paint dries in there, then it makes the sponge brittle and it crumbles all over your piece.
You know, Donna, while you had that one stroke brush caddy in front, let's just tell them a little bit more about the caddy and all of the sections there.
All right, so what's wonderful about my caddy, we have an area over here when you've got the brush with, over here we're going to put them there if I'm still using that color on the brush. And over here, I'm going to show you that I'm cleaning. I have a big rake because some of the basins are very small and it's hard to get this 3/4 inch flat, which I use a lot to get it clean. So we have that long raking area. Then we take this brush and we want the water to drain out of it. So then we would come in here and set it in this side so that works there. And then if the brush is, I want it loaded maybe, and I'm going to use it again with the same colors, I will then lay my brush in here in the water. So if you lay all these brushes in here, either any of these brushes, it will keep them from bending the tip, because my first caddy was a bowl. And many of you say you use a solo cup, but this is when you feel professional. And what I want to share with you about this caddy is that I remember getting borrowing $4 from my sister to get my first brush basin, Plaza square one, and I felt like such an artist. It's like I loved and fell in love with tools. What about you? I know that you guys love tools, and so Plaids help us come out with lots of beautiful tools, and we continue.
Speaking of tools, I said speaking of tools.
I know. Here's my next tool. Okay, so I want to show you something that's really fun. Is that I put away just now the lid, but there is a lid to.
It's right next to you.
The double loader.
It's right next to you.
Oh no, the lid to this.
Oh, that
I put
lid.
it in the bag.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I want you to see my pet peeve is the floating medium runs around into all my paint. So I made a section where I could put my floating medium and a cap to cover it when you're storing it, okay? So it stays moist and wonderful. I made this double loader so that the problems that most people had were loading. So when you're out there telling me that you're so unhappy because you've got mud, this kind of controls you. And as I paint today, you're going to see, and I'll share with you the importance of putting the paint next to the paint I'm going to use and loading it off onto one of these sections, all right? And so this is wonderful for this. And I've just found this last year a wonderful use for the double loader also. And that is to keep my fabric paints from running into each other. And it's like a little watercolor palette or a fabric paint palette. It works for all that. So what I want to show you also is, I'm not going to set anything back on that wet wreath, is that I made a lid. And when in this lid, I have the sponge that you can wet, lay it in here, and a sweet little lady told me that if I put a copper penny, if you can find one of those, it keeps it from going musty or molding. If you leave it a long time, we're not going to leave it because we're going to go paint, right? But you put a lid on here. And the reason I thought this was important with 7 children is I would get a call from the school as soon as I poured out all my paint. And so this way, you can close it up and you can go for a long time and not worry about that paint drying. Or you can be at your class, if you go to class, and come back to the house with your paint and still continue to paint. But you cannot put this into your palette with the lid on. Just a little heads up. You're gonna take, and this, I put my foam plates in here, or I come right in here under one notch. See that notch down there? I turn it around, it drops, and then I spin it. And there you are in your double loader.
It's locked in place.
You want me to tell anything else? Or
You want to talk about your palette?
Yeah. Okay, so I just don't want to put anything on here again. All right, so I'm going to get a paper towel and show you. The biggest problem I had is when I'm holding a foam plate, guys, you're holding this, you're right in here is where carpal tunnel happens from the grip and holding it. So, and also, I would be on ladders and having problems while I was painting it, like this foam plate's gonna tip. So what we've done is we made this to hold the foam plate, and I also was always holding this gripped paper towel. So what I did was I did an accordion? How do you say that? Accordion? All right, so I made it to fold 4 times, into 4s, I mean, and then I accordion it into right here. And then I spin it, and so that's got my paper towels, lefty or righty, I made it for both. You put your thumb here, and on the bottom here is all the pressure goes on your fingers, never on your wrists anymore. Okay, lefty or righty, all right? So this, you can just walk around, or I just set this at my table, and I can put a little bit of water in this one, because we don't use much water ever, just with a liner. And then some of these others, you can put a paint that you need to, the air won't dry it out as fast, so you can have extra colors in there. And I might have 2 mediums, so that I have a clean medium and one I keep making messy. I also put my brushes in there so they're ready for me to walk at my easel and paint. All right, isn't that fun? Okay, so let's get going on the next step. Now the next step is doing pine needles. So when I'm doing pine needles, I want you to see that we're using, did I put it away, Chris? I put away, or both of our light greens there. All right, so I've got your, Chris said, do you know all your names? Guess what? That's not citrus, is it?
It's Happy Green.
Happy Green. I was like, uh-oh, she's gonna be right. I didn't know that name. It was a Happy Green or a citrus green. All right, but in our kit, you have Happy Green. So I dampen the brush. I lay it on the paper towel, get the excess water out of it, and then I'm gonna pick up these 2 colors, all right? So I can go back and forth to pick up, which I split the brush bristles. Then I come over here, and then I'm gonna push really hard to work it in. I wanna come around so you can see that better. See this? I'm pushing real hard and quick. So I'm doing that. I bet some of you can tell me why I'm doing that. I'm doing that quickly because I want the paint to get into the middle of the bristles. All right, because that's what helps you do the beautiful strokes. All right, then I'm gonna go pick up more, come back here. I split the brush here. I do not split the brush here. It doesn't hurt the nylon, synthetic nylon bristles to do that. All right, So now sometimes you still have water. I can tell I've got a lot of water here. So I lay the brush down and I watch it run out of those bristles, because we do not want water in our brush, all right? So now we're ready. Now if I need more paint, I might only need the happy green. So I could just dip the happy green and come here, or just dip the sap from there on, okay? And after I first load it, I don't push really hard anymore. I'm just picking up. When I start painting and I move from the camera, I would come back here and get this paint first before I try dipping. Also, if I want a lighter green to stand out sometimes, oops, I got a lot of white that time, you could just come in here and pick up some, all right? Now, last thing I want to share with you about loading is that I'm going to pick up medium sometimes by just touching and
that's
working.
the FolkArt floating medium, right, Donna?
FolkArt floating medium, because we have many mediums, so I need to be clear about that. We have blending and other mediums. This is floating medium. Now, I just also have seen so many of you where the brush is dripping with medium. Now, you don't use medium every stroke because it's still in there. So sometimes you're going, I have so much paint and I still have a dry edge. Then that's when you might only need the medium on the edge that's dry. So I might just barely tip the sap corner, go here and work it in and then paint, all right? So watch this over and over and make sure you get some of those tips, because they're important for you when you're painting. All right, so I decided I wanted some pine needles. Now the first thing I want you to see is, let's do it over here. The first pine needle, if I'm leading with the lighter color, excuse me, let me say that over. The color that follows is going to be the predominant color. So if I go like this, it's going to be dark. If I flip it around, you're going to get the lightness. All right, so I led with the dark to get the light, all right? And I don't want it quite that bright. So then I can come right back on top of it and tone it down a little bit with some more
You're
sap.
up on the chisel edge of the brush. Tell us how much pressure you're applying on the brush to do those strokes, Donna.
I will. I just want to show them that we are going to touch this brush down. We're going to lift slightly the dark green. Show you over here. And then we're going to drag the light green. So we don't have much pressure at all, but what we're going to do is touch, tilt, just a little bit. Not that much, because then we don't have any control of the bristles. Touch, tip, a little bit, and slide. All right, right on the chisel. All right, so what I'm doing, pine needles are long. Well, not all pine needles, but Florida pine needles are long. You have them long here in Georgia too, don't you? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna come in here, and I'm going on one side and then the other, just for placement. Then I can come back and make it nice and full after I see where I want them to go. All right, and I also like to pull some in. Now, it looks like you might feel like that's enough, but I really wanted them to be a nice, full, light. Practice your needles first, okay? And you don't have to worry about, I have people that go just like that, and everyone has to be perfect. But when I get all done, you see I am not totally perfect on all those strokes. I'm going for making them light and airy, and if they don't show, don't put a lot of pressure, because that's going to smash it down and take away from your pretty look. Now this is what I want you to see. I am not doing, I like to show you what you don't do and what you should do. I'm not doing this. See this with the brush? Look at the handle of the brush. See that? I'm not doing that. What I'm doing always is, let's come over here, is I'm touching, I'm tilting I think that was a better shot right here. Touch, tilt, and watch my whole arm goes with me. My whole arm. So you're kind of using your fingers as a point to steady the brush. I touch, tip, I'm steady. I want to keep it at that position. And I just take my whole arm with me. See that? Your whole arm. And then you won't have any problems getting these nice points at the end. Okay? So let's see what happens. We're going to do a few on this side. And I did come in this area right in here and start filling it in, going downward. Just think about an arrangement, a wreath that you might see. I like to go look at finished wreaths, silk wreaths, or fresh greenery wreaths, and see what part I like in those wreaths. All right, so then I'm going to come up on the deer because I don't want to see the bottom of it. I want it to look like it's inside a wreath, sitting right in there, nested in there, okay? So I came up here and put a few more pine needles right in there, okay? And we're gonna just repeat, now that I found the side I like, then come over here and repeat where we put those over there. Now I wanna show you, this is what happens if I push down heavy. All right, so these look more like skinny pine needles and these are a little heavier. And it's easy to fix that or make them all like that if that's what you like, by coming right back on top of here and just put a few lighter ones on top. See, I went from heavy strokes. I tell people that when they're learning, I could tell when I was improving because I could see a lighter touch because everything was dark, heavy, and solid. And as I learned to control my brush, I got really nice, light, airy strokes, okay? So we've got, I kind of went outside, inside, outside, inside, all right, as I come around. Just pick up a little bit more paint. Are you having a good time? I'm excited to see what your wreaths are gonna look like. And we like those Let's Paint challenges, which means you're gonna come in and share and hashtag too, right, Chris?
That's right. So if you are painting along with Donna, we do welcome you to share your work with us. Excuse me. If you are a member of Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group, we would love for you to become a member if you're not first, and then also take a picture of your work and show us where you hung the wreath, whether it's on your front door or inside your home. We'd love to see your work. And when you do share your work in the Facebook group, Let's Paint with Plaid, be sure to use the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge. All one word and no apostrophe.
Thank you. All right, so this is the last of the pine needles for now. You can go all the way around, not even put a bow. You can choose what to do with that. But so it looks really brilliant in those lights, doesn't it? I love it.
It's quite a bit brighter than your original one.
I know. Okay, so now we're gonna do some evergreen. And the evergreen, I'm gonna put this brush to the side. Be sure to rake your paint off and make sure that in your brush caddy, make sure that you hear that rake. There we go, hear it? All right, because it's very important to get the paint out of the the ferrule there. Make sure you get it out. What ruins the tips are when we have paint in here dried, because then they start fluffing out. All right, so now we're going to pick up our 12 again. All right, so this already dampened, and I want you to see that there's two ways that we can do this evergreen. We can start, because some evergreen is just light and dark green. I ended up having white tips, like they're variegated kind of, but I want you to see if I come in here like this, you're not gonna see them. So I'm gonna come right here and when you split this, we usually with double loading, I go half and half. But when I'm multi-loading and doing different techniques or different amounts, you might only put 1/5 or 1/3 or 1/4, and then you work that in. And then I'm going to just keep coming here and getting little bits of white. All right. So when I get this white, these are short little strokes. So let me turn it a little bit so you can see. I'm going to touch and pull. They're little teeny strokes. Touch and pull. Now, one thing that will help you is if you decide the size you want by just tapping that. All right. And I can decide I want one over here. And then I'm just going to fill these in. All right. So I have one there, and I did that 3. So one coming down. So, and I don't even look at my pine needles anymore because they're just in the wreath, and all I want to do now is decide where to put the next ones. All right. So that's going to help you, and just make sure you have lots of sap green, and we're going to pick up the white, the wicker white right here as we go. All right. So we're going to tip, 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 tip. And we're layering from the tip coming back down. And so I start on the left and I pull to the right. And if you're a lefty, you might start on the right and pull to the left. But so I'm barely touching this. I want you to see that I'm just ever so lightly touch, pull, touch, pull, touch, pull. All right, all the way. But I'm pulling my whole finger down. See that? I'm steadying myself. I'm not going like this. So if you remember, I always like to say, try to keep the handle straight up on your brush and make the bristles do your work, okay? There we go. See, so they're like little frosted tips, or they're variegated. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Almost kind of looks like snow nested on every single little evergreen twig there.
I think when artists do that, that's probably, because I know there's some variegated ones, but I don't know. That's not mostly what you see in the winter. I figured it was snowed, like Chris said. All right, see, those are really fast and simple because I'm not worrying about them being exact. I want you to enjoy it, just loose. Remember that loosey-goosey thing? Have a good time. I steady with my little finger, though. I can be up free like this, but you have so much more control if you steady yourself. And some people, like when I got false nails the first time I did it, I ruined my nail. I couldn't do curly cues. I couldn't do anything. And I'm like, but I was on TV and they wanted my nails to look good. So listen, this is what I learned, that if I don't steady my finger, I've got a problem. But by steadying it, I can make that happen. But many people say, my little finger doesn't do that. So I do this a lot with kids or us ladies that shake a lot. If you put your hand here, and like the artists who use the stick across their oils, that helps you to be able to do it. Okay, so I still have a space and all in here, which I can come in after the twigs and all and see if I need more evergreen in there, more pine needles. All right, so let's go ahead and add our rest really quick. Now, same thing inside, outside, right? And remembering we're gonna put fun twigs and stuff in here. So I've got this little guy here. I'm going to move one down here, which isn't exactly where I had it before. And that's it. So 1, 2, I have these 3 here, and then I have 2 over here. So I'm going to balance this out a little bit and come up here. I'm just tapping it in there, just for where I want it to be. And you can take advantage of these wonderful scallops on the edge, because it looks so much better when you're going into those also. Now, we don't have many steps to go, but we have fun steps to go. So look, we're gonna come in here, and I start at the top, and I work it down. And you have to, you might notice that I didn't get much dark green, sap green. I'm mostly picking up the wicker white. All right, and this is how I freehand without patterns, because I use the wreath, the antlers and all that are underneath, but then I have to cover them with my paint, which the FolkArt multi-surface paint is so wonderful about coverage. My other very favorite thing about this paint is that you have a sealer in it. So it makes a sheen on it. It's indoor, outdoor. It's luscious. And when I have a group of teenagers, and when they come, and they're always want everything perfect. If it's not perfect, they're like, I just ruined my piece. And I love that if you have a nice dried base coat, I can come in here with a dampened paper towel, and I can just wipe it all off, and they go like that, and then they smile really big. Oh my gosh, it's not ruined. And that's because we have a wonderful sealer in the paint.
And Donna talked about the finish. If you're new to FolkArt multi-surface paints, it dries to a gorgeous satin finish.
Beautiful, yeah. Now you can put a sealer. I have people ask me all that all the time because they're so used to putting a sealer. And we have beautiful indoor, outdoor, regular or outdoor sealers. And you have different sheens, and we also have spray sealers. When I'm doing something like a mailbox and I want to see an extra sealer on it, just to be extra sure, I do the outdoor sealers that have a heavy shine on it, because the enamel mailbox is shiny itself. Okay, there we go. All right.
So, I'm anxious to see the twigs and the berries.
Yep. Okay, so let's pick up this 12. There's two ways you can do this. You can take and use a 12, or you can use your liner, your 2-script liner. But I want you to see I put a little bit, I'm going to split this, a little bit of burnt umber and wicker white, work it in, and then from then on I can just dip into the color, all right? And I need plenty of paint on this. And so I'm going to add a little bit of medium so it moves. All right, and I'm going to show you how often I go to medium so you'll know. Now I'm going to come right in here and not be in front of the camera. And I just led.
Maybe you could show on the other side, Donna, because your hand was covering that one.
Okay.
Let's show a twig on the, there we go.
Okay,
Now
I'm leading. I led with the white, and that's kind of just giving you a little touch of lightness with the white. But if you wanted to show a lot more, kind of like it's snow covered, but we're going to add some snow to these, you can lead with the brown, the burnt umber, and it will show a little bit more white.
So again, that was burnt umber
And
with wicker white and some floating medium.
Right. So I haven't gone back for floating medium, just to let you know. So I put heavy ones, heavier, and then I'm coming in here with little light ones where I'm barely touching the chisel, okay? Barely touch the chisel. And all in here is where I put the berries.
And so if you want a thicker twig, you're applying more pressure. If you want a thinner twig, you're using less pressure.
There we go. All right. Now you can definitely see those, but you're going to see them better when we put the snow on it.
Almost looks like they have snow on them already, Donna.
I know, with that white. I just picked a few to put extra snow because I think as I was putting the white, I went, I need something else. Okay, so you see how I'm not trying to be, I'm moving it a little bit so it looks like it's not perfect, because I like the...
Well, you don't want straight sticks.
That's what I was trying to say.
You want them to look natural.
That's what I was trying to say. There we go. See, so everywhere I was worried, I didn't have to worry anymore, because did you see, twigs filled it in. And I'm going to just balance it where I'm stopping about the same spot over here as I did there. All right, so there we are. We've got the twigs in. Now we need some berries, and then I put little white, oh, actually, I just put that little bit of white on top of the branches. I thought I had little white willow branches. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go down to get a little smaller brush, guys. I want my 8 flat. And let me show you what we're going to do. To get these berries, I know we use a lot of daubers, but I want you to see with these berries, it was really fun to get a little white berry, put a little bit of gray shading, and then put a little dot where the tip of the berry is. And then I came back later and put little bits of gold on here when I was speckling everything.
So I think you're going to want to get your black out, right?
The
licorice?
Yeah, I don't have the licorice out here because we had already base coated. Okay, put a little bit here. And also, I'm going to pick a little wicker white and a little bit of licorice and make a little bit of gray. Just so it's not solid black. It'll be easier for you when you're trying to shade this, okay? So I'm going to wash my brush, my 8 flat. All right, and I'm going to pick up the white, get the white really good on my brush. Okay, and then I'm going to side load the gray that we mixed, okay? So now what's going to happen is I'm just going to come right here. I'm going to put the pure white at the top, a half circle, and then I'm going to do the gray at the bottom, okay? And that's not probably close enough for you to see, but I'm going to continue to just pick up white and go back to my gray and have a little bit. I can make smaller. I did the white on the top and the gray on the bottom. Okay, and that's one stroke painting when we're double loading. But let me tell you, there's other ways where you can just do all white and then come back and shade. But I like to do it really quick and easy. I'm going to make some a little smaller here.
Well, no 2 berries are the same size either, Donna.
Yeah, especially they wouldn't be on the same limb that size. All right, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So on this, you might even go down to a 6 if you want to. All right, I'm going to come over here and just right at the branches, they don't have to be attached, but right at the branches, I'm going to put some little small ones. And this is what I can tell you just right away when I started this. If I wasn't using the daubers, I would come in here. Daubers are little wood sticks with sponges on them, and they make you could daub the little round berry on here. But our brushes, we've always used our brushes for all of our grapes and our berries. And then you can also do the handle of the brush for a little berry. That's a small berry, all right? So if I put all these white, half circle, half circle, half circle, half circle, then I can come back and put the shading on later if I want to, when it's drier. Okay, so this is the thing, is make sure you don't just do 2, 2, 2, or 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. They're clusters on branches, all right? Like you pick the branch with berries and you put it in there. All right, I did come up here and do a few more up here. Okay, right here. And so that means I need to do a few up here. These could be red berries. I was just keeping the colors to just a rich, pretty color here. But traditional, putting red berries or blue berries or aqua berries, whatever your decor is, works too. Now, because I want to come back and shade those a little bit better and not try to do it at the same time, I'm going to come up here and start showing you how I take this corner of the 12 and I'm going to dip into fresh white paint. All right, so we just have a few little finishing touches. I want you to see, I'm just going to dab the corner to put snow on here, a little bit up here. All right, and then thick paint again. Just put it right on the antlers.
He's been in the snowstorm, Donna.
All right. Now, just remember, if you want your antlers to be larger, you can just continue them larger than the stencil. All right. I think it looks like I did on one of these, so you can do that. You can be cute and do a little tip on the nose. All right, now let me show you. I went around these branches, and let me pull it down here so you can see. I went along these branches, and I just tapped it. And just don't make it the same exact look. And I have so many people that just tap, tap, tap. Make it look like the snow actually did that. See, heavier sometimes, skinny, and other times thinner and heavier. I used to say skinny and fat, and I'm like, that's negative. I am not saying that anymore. All right, right up here. And think that's going to go behind the bow, so I'm not going to worry. Are you getting the winter feeling? Some of you are living in the winter feeling right now. And just because I'm in Florida, I'm not bragging. All right. So then I do like to take the script liner when I'm doing little pines and little branches. And I wet that liner, dry it off a little bit, and then stroke it through here. So then that makes it possible for you to just take and touch it and drag it. So it's easier because it's a smaller area. I don't want to be in front of that. So let me move it around so y'all can see it better. All right, so I just lay it down and just drag it. And don't try to paint it on, let it lay on there, all right? Don't sit there and stroke it really tight.
Probably the key thing to do in this, Donna, is let's remind everybody that this snow should be on the top of the twig or the branch, right? Because you would never see snow underneath. It's kind of resting on top.
That's good. Yeah, thank you. All right, I want to try to get out of your way so you can see. And you can tell, oops, I need more paint. The minute it sputters and nothing comes off your brush. But see how that was easy to put on? You saw me, I really worked on getting those. This wouldn't look as good if it wasn't on little branches, all right? Now, the next thing I also did, while my berries are drying here a little bit, is that I washed out this brush and I wanted more gold, more and more gold. So I'm gonna, besides, I still, as I'm creating this, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put more gold branches, and these are like willow branches, but they're gold. And I came in here and I added some of that, and then I decide, just like you will, you might say, oh, I am so happy with that, because sometimes my students will go, oh, I don't want to add that. Do I have to add that? So you don't have to add anything you don't want to add, okay? I push them when they say they don't want to float, because that's a process that will really make your pieces look way better usually. And they come alive and they have depth by the time you float, okay? But as I did this, then I said, oh, it's still kind of blank. And so then that's when we decided, and these fly specking, all right? So now let's look at our berries. They're all dry now. Two things I want to do. The little tip, what is that called in the center of the berry, Chris?
It's just the end of the berry.
The end, okay. I thought it was like where the blossom used to be, but that's not. That's like on a pear or something. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put that little gray on the bottoms. So you want the gray mix on the bottom so it has some depth. Does that make sense? That's why I'm coming back with gray. Some of it I did as I went. And you want to mix the gray till it shows. That's not showing very well. All right. So it's kind of like when I just put a glare on the berries sometimes. We're going to put, we got floating medium. See how that gray's coming in there? The floating medium and the gray mix. And see, really quick, you can just go along in there. I got a little heavy there. And then I came back. We're almost done. I love the flicking part. You have to be careful not to get the flicking all over you. It's all over my laptop and my printer, and it's everywhere. All right. And when I have my students stand up an easel and flicked, it came right back on them. So when you use a toothbrush, it's better. I use a fan brush a lot, and it comes right back on you. All right. So real quick, I'm going to put a little bit of gold at the tops. And when you put it on here, it's kind of transparent. Touch, touch. And you'll see it in the light. It might not show up when you're doing this, but you'll see it in the light. And I just touched it. All right, and let's put little teeny touches of licorice, right? Don't they come alive?
It's a finishing touch.
And you don't need to have branches to pull this in. We're just going to pretend those branches are up underneath and they're attached. So that's some of those things I told you. You don't have to worry about some things. Okay, so let's do our fly specking. All right, and if you've seen me, many have seen me do a fan brush like this. This is more controllable. It stays where you want it to be. All right, so I am going to, actually, I'm going to move some of this white over here too. But I'm going to wet this a little bit. Make sure it's in my brush. Sometimes if it started to dry up and you're using that, it'll splatter big spots of thick paint. So look, if I come here, it's good for you to test it. I'm holding this at the same time. It'll show up better on the licorice.
When you're fly specking, the more liquid you make your paint by adding water to thin it, the bigger the flux of color. If you have a fairly dry amount on your toothbrush, then your flicks or your fly speck spots are going to be so much smaller.
Do you wet your toothbrush, Chris?
Yes.
Or do you prefer to make the gold wet?
I do both. I make
Okay.
the gold wet by wetting my toothbrush when I fly speck.
Right. All right. So I also have soft toothbrushes. The stiffer, the better, I think. Okay, that's just a quick little gold, but I like to put it on my greenery also. I do need more water, you'll see. All right, so coming in here, especially with some of the evergreen, and I like the way it looked when it was all the way around. I'm getting it on the table here, I have to be careful. Okay, so now I'm gonna clean that out and I'm gonna get white.
This is where the snow happens.
Yeah. Okay, now some people can make this too thin, and what happens if it's too thin is when it hits, it just makes a blur. And that's not always bad. Some people love that look, but look, really. So there we are. So did y'all have
It's snowing.
fun? Did y'all have fun? What do you think?
I hope everyone that does paint this joins our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group and post a picture using the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge.
You guys
no
need...
apostrophe, all one word.
Yeah.
And also, if you are new to this, let me just remind you that you can visit plaidonline.com/Let's Paint, where you'll see all there is to know about our Let's Paint program, and you'll have information about the wreath as well as the wood shapes that we're using today. Thank you for joining us. I hope you had a great time. And Donna, thank you for sharing your talents with us today.
Thank you. I had a good time, and I just imagine you guys out there painting with your family and friends during this season. And these are great gifts, quick and easy. Line them up and do 4 at a time.
And so until next time, come on,
let's paint.
Thank you so much, Donna, for sharing your talents with us today. I know so many of our viewers are going to be so excited to paint this stenciled deer wreath. You made it so fun and so easy. But before we say goodbye today, I would love to share with you, in case you are new to our program and you missed the previous quarterly roundups. Again, we did so many different fun things showing you options of what you can do on our birch plywood wreaths. So let's share with you the first quarterly roundup, with it being springtime. We used our oval in a vertical format, and again, this is a birch plywood, perfect wreath for hanging on your door. This one incorporated so many nice fresh green sprigs and some blue flowers, perfect for spring. And you know what? The center post of a birdhouse is just so fun, complete with a little blue bird on the upper right-hand corner. You will love painting this one if by chance you missed it. The second quarterly roundup was a square wreath, and we turned it on the diamond. We accented using a separate wood piece of a mason jar and created a fun bouquet of zinnias and daisies coming out of that, and accented with a little bit of the baker's twine. Again, a really fun project. This could hang on your front door as well as maybe inside the home, above your headboard, on a mantle. So many different places you can hang these wreaths. Our third quarterly roundup wreath was perfect for fall, and we accented our wreath, again another square one, in the square format with pumpkins and an alphabet in the center, just to share with you how you can personalize and create your own family wreath to hang on the door. So I thank you for following along all of the Wreath of the Month series with us this year, and I can't wait for you to see what we have in store for next year. So until then, continue painting and have lots and lots of fun. Come on, let's paint.